Hi, and welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Delilah Bartlett, leader and coach extraordinaire, and so excited to be with you today to talk about the circles of impact. I have to tell you, I've really been anticipating coming and sharing this particular masterclass because I have a feeling, and more than the feeling, I'm pretty comfortable in assurance that I'm not the only one that has had to think through and maybe even struggle how to balance all of the giving that you want to do with the struggle of your life. And so, yeah. And so I wanted to come and share some amazing, amazing, timeless strategies around how to create circles of mentorship that do two things. One, it really, really helps with the efficacy of your impact, making sure that the time that you're sharing with those around you is effective in its impact. And two, the second thing that it does is that it helps you to manage your time and your space. This particular strategy, timeless. And we'll talk about how we know it's timeless, but managing your space. So when I think about the circles of impact, and I'm going to share a couple slides here, you will not, be overwhelmed with slides, but just enough to structure and guide us through the conversation. I'll share some slides, but when you think about the circles of impact, you can almost parallel them to circles of access. So circles of impact, circles of access can kind of parallel and lay on top of one another as we're having this discussion, but we'll talk more about that. And so I want to go ahead and share the slides. I hope you guys are doing amazing. And while I'm sharing the slides, let me say a couple things as well. If you are not familiar with me, if you're joining here because you saw a link somewhere and it really spoke to you you and so you showed up but you don't know much about me, let me share it. Delilah Jones Bartlett, a ton of information about me on my website, delilahbartlett.com. So if you really want to dig deep, you can go there. But I have a passion for closing the world's leadership gap. And there are several ways that I do that. I have a really, really amazing career that I've built over 26 years, where I love to do pioneering things and drive results and also help the people around me by when I'm doing so. And then I do also own and operate a coaching business as well as an online ministry. So wherever I could go to really help those around me close the leadership gap by becoming their best selves in effort that they can become help others become their best selves. So this perpetual kind of benefit, that's what I'm doing. So that's what I'm out here doing. And so I do it in many ways, as I said. And if you want to know more, please, 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 I encourage you to check out my website. But today we are here and we're talking about circles of impact. And again, I was so, so excited to bring this particular concept strategy forward because I know it's going to help a lot of you out. And so I want to get into it, but I want to frame it up and let you know there's three things really we're going to do during this brief time together. I'm tracking us to be maybe 20 to 30 minutes. I'll share some content, open it up for Q&A. Sometimes, and depends on how this day goes, really, sometimes I'll save the Q&A for those who actually registered, but then allow the rest of the masterclass to be seen by the general public. And so that basically my point there is, if you are seeing this video as a recording, you may not actually hear the Q&A, but you'll get all the rich content. So continue to listen. And so there are three things that we're really going to frame up here. Introducing and overviewing the model of the circles of impact, and we'll get into that, including how we know it works. There is nothing like hearing information and recommendations and having proof points of the success of the strategy. I've basically given it some language that'll help us all be able to digest the information and apply it. I can't necessarily say the principle is mine, but we'll get into that. But I have giving it language so that you can apply it. And so the second thing we're going to do is talk about how it benefits you and others. And then thirdly, we're going to introduce characteristics of the people who fall in each circle. I am not going to exhaust that here. I will introduce it. I will share with you that I am hosting a brunch, a women's brunch, the Big Brunch, BIG brunch here in Houston, where I will go in depth in all of the characteristics for each circle, but here I will introduce it. So if you are here in the Houston area, or you can get here to the Houston area, I encourage you to delilahbartlett.com and sign up today and register today. Early bird tickets are still available. And then, as I mentioned, we'll go into some time of Q&A, but here we go. I am so excited. Those are the three things that the three objectives that will get accomplished here today. And so when we think about circles, and I love the idea of using circles here when it came into my mind, I'm like, oh, this is such a grand idea that because it talks to you, you can really visually see the relationship get closer as the circles grow smaller. And so when we think about the circles of impact, there are one, two, three, four circles. You can see them in the outline here. One, two, three, four circles. This is just a little watermark of my brand. So you already know. But one, two, three, four circles. And you can see the circles get smaller. So here is the smallest circle, which means there's probably the tightest, closest access where you're more than likely getting in partnership the deepest impact. And so let's go ahead and start to reveal the circles of impact. And so when we look at the circles, the first level of the circle is um, the first level of the circle is engaging. And so as we're looking to engage, there are a couple things that I really want to call out about the first level of engaging. And again, there are four levels. There are four levels to the circles of impact. And so we're going to start with the first. The first is the level of engagement. And again, this model takes you from the outermost type of engagement you can have, and then it closes in to what is this fourth circle, and we'll get to that. But we're going to walk through the four. I'm going to give you some highlights of the impact that can be had in each one of these circles, as well as what that looks like as far as access to you. And again, we'll stop for some Q&A then. But this first level, engaging. And so engaging really talks about building meaningful engagements and connections, but more so with a larger group of people. This could be a diverse group of people. This could be people in your network. If you happen to have a social media platform, this could be the broader audience in your social media platform. And so here is where, maybe this is not where you're spending the majority of your time, but there's a portion of your time that you're spending with a broader audience. If you happen to lead a group of people, here's another example that we can use hierarchically in your hierarchy. If you're leading a group of people, you may be the leader. You have a direct reports. Then there's a larger group of people beyond those direct reports, and an even larger group of people beyond those other direct reports. And so you may be engaging this larger group of people, but not as often as the people more closer to you. The type of information that you're sharing may be more high level and not as in depth. And so when we think about engaging, and here's where I get to drop the amazing nugget about principally where this particular principle comes from. Really, I am taking it from the Bible. I'm making something smaller here. There we go. I'm taking it from the Bible. You may be a Christian, you may not, but this is a proven principle. So rock with me either way. And I'll share the outline with you as to how I've correlated these particular circles and how we know they work. And so in the Bible, there is an account, there are many accounts on how Jesus actually engages with different people groups. And so again, Christian, non-Christian principle still works. Um, Jesus engages with people. It talks about the Bible, the Holy Bible talks about how Jesus engaged with the multitudes. He had a relationship with the disciples. He then had a relationship with three people, a little bit differently than the disciples. And then of those three, had a relationship with one different than the other two. And so when we look at from a multitude standpoint, again, this is where I glean the principles and have tweaked them, giving them some language to make them digestible for you, as well as for to do so that they're you can apply them. In this area of engagement, you want to think about these are your large group of people. um, I have some more points I want to share about that, but I'm trying to figure out how deep I want to go to that. This may be, if you're a writer, this may be people that you're writing to, so a large audience, but there's not a ton of personal time that you're spending with this particular group. So again, we're sharing so that you can understand the impact that you're making and the amount of time and access you should be given in each one of these areas. And so that's engaging. I do want to go on because we're going to get a little bit deeper in a minute. The next level is encouraging. This looks a little bit different than engaging. So now we're talking about there are fewer people. It's not like social media. You're just going out and sharing information, and it's quick. This is more intimate. This is more intimate. It's more impactful. You're giving away a little bit more in this space, and people are a little bit closer to you. So when we think about the encouraging circle, this is more about cultivating growth mindsets with people. Um, in this particular role, we're really discussing like positive reinforcement with people, constructive feedback, like they're getting close and they're getting intimate with you. This is likening, I have it here where it says to the 12. And so again, this model is coming from a model of Christ and relationships. And so from engaging, we correlate to the multitudes. When we get to a level where we're encouraging people, we're correlating to the 12. There are fewer people. We're more engaged. It's more of a relationship. And we're building a relationship so we're able to communicate actually a little bit more openly and honestly. The next level is empowering. And so this is where we're really looking to unlock potential. And so here is where there are fewer people. So you're not going to talk to the same to the multitude as you do, I'm sorry, the level with you that you engage with as you do the level you encourage, as you do the level you empower. You're giving more depth. You're giving more, I don't want to say quality because everything you do at each level should be quality, but you're giving more depth here at this level of empowerment. And you're only doing it for a few people because you don't have time or space or capacity in yourself to give the level that you're giving to 3 people to give to 12 people. And you definitely don't have that type of capacity to give to a multitude. And so when you get to the level of empowering, this is like really the catalyst, as I mentioned, for leadership, unlocking leadership potential. You start to delegate these people you trust. So they may even be people that you share your strategies with that go out and share your strategies with others. I think about like if you're in the workplace and you're a leader, this is your core team, your direct reports. They carry, understand, relate to your vision a little bit differently, closer than maybe your larger group of people. And so you're spending more time with them, making sure you're cultivating those relationships and they have good understanding. They're owning pieces of the vision, right? They're owning pieces of the vision in order to get the mission accomplished, and so that they themselves grow as leaders. You know, I'm all about personal development and leadership development. So all throughout this circle of impact, I'm really aiming for how do we help develop people, while we also maintain our own time and peace. Lastly, the last circle is about equipping. Now, granted, you may be able to pull this off with more than one person, but this is a safe strategy. We've seen it work. We know it worked. How do we know it worked? Because we've seen Christianity be multiplied throughout the earth. This was the structure it was built on. We read about it. If you haven't read about it, you may want to check out the stories. You've read about it, you know it's successful. Why? Because the people who actually started, right, the multitudes that were there, the 12 that were there, the 3 that were there, and the 1 that was there, they're no longer here, but the message is still going on. So you know the strategy works. Now, again, getting back to 1, when you get to the 1 that you're equipping, and I'll touch a little bit about equipping, maybe you can do it with 2 people, but this is definitely a larger contribution from you that you're sharing with someone. This is a larger time commitment that you're sharing with someone. This is a deeper depth that you're sharing with someone. And so I caution you to choose more than one person. Again, you can empower 3 and do amazing things with the 3. You can encourage 12 and do really dope things with the 12. And you can engage with the multitude and set them ablaze on their path to living toward their deepest and fullest potential. But when you get down to equipping, you may want to just choose one. So I want to say a couple things about equipping, just referring to my notes here. That this is really about making sure that people have the necessary skills and tools and to support them both professionally and personally. And so this is using some of your best work and sharing it with those around you. I'm going to share a few more things. As I said, we're probably going to go about 20, 30 more minutes. Give me like 3 to 5 more minutes of sharing, and then we will pause and I will answer any questions you have about mentorship, because I'm framing this in the way of mentorship for the marketplace or discipleship for ministry, depending on what lane you're coming in as you're listening to this content. And so feel free to ask any questions, but let me get through this. And so when we think about the multitudes, here's where I want to talk about at least a characteristic, right, of each group that we're talking about, because we're talking about 4 groups. Let's call them groups of people. And here's where I will share at least one characteristic. But again, I am hosting a women's brunch here on May 4th, the big brunch, really looking to empower women who are there. It's going to be fabulous. Well, I will reveal the rest. So if you want the rest, come hang out with us. But one of the characteristics that we'll find in the multitudes is diversity. This would be consisting of people with various backgrounds, reflecting a diverse range of experiences and perspectives. This is one of those things, people like to say, know your audience, or if you have a specific target, have a niche audience. This is not your niche audience. This is when you're just hanging out with the general public. And so, it's more of a general message, and you have a working level of awareness that this is a diverse group of people. And so, as you're creating content, as you're watching your tone and your approach, you're very conscious about how you're sharing. You're not going too deep. You're more high level, and they're not occupying a whole lot of your time. When we get to the second level of encouraging, what you can find in this group of people is that, they're starting to get more committed to you. They're demonstrating that they really value the time that they spend with you. They're teachable. They're teachable and open to the things that you're sharing. And so versus the previous group that may just receive and hear the information, these folks are probably more engaging with you, and asking questions, coming back with follow-up on the things that you may have suggested, given them guidance on. And so this is a different level of engagement. So that's the type of behavior you can see when you think about the encouraging level. And then when we talk about empowering, these guys are a little privileged, right? Because they have access to you that the other, if we're comparing the 12, the other nine don't have, and definitely the general public would not have to you. So they're a little privileged. They seek more of your time. These are folks that are definitely on your calendar. These are people that you're probably giving projects. If you're at work, you're assigning projects. If they're mentees, you're giving them specific skill sets or um, growth opportunities to kind of go out, work on, report back. Like it's real specific because it's a lot more intimate with this particular group. And again, they have a level of privilege because they have a level of access. These people probably have your phone numbers. Maybe the level of 12, right? The encouraging level of encouraging circle has your email, where the empowering circle might have your phone number, right? There's a distinction in how you're engaging with them and the information that you're sharing. And then lastly, the equipping level. When you think about the equipping, right, this has just gotten real tight. And so this is very intimate. You trust this person to be able to maybe share more about your failures and successes. Maybe they even, they not only have a phone number, they may know an address, right? They may know a little bit more about you. They may be on your schedule and have the opportunity to just call you whenever. You are sitting them down and having more extensive periods of time of sharing with them and sharpening them. Um, I'm just thinking about reflecting on some things in my life. Like they're texting you to say, hey, can you join this call? Because I just want you to listen and get your thoughts and your feedback. Where the others don't necessarily have that level of access to you. And so those are the four levels. I thought I wanted to say, I want to say these last four things, this last thing about each level. I just want to reflect on my notes. Engaging, you're involved in, this is you creating a welcoming and inclusive environment. They're involved and they're feeling valued. Encouraging, this is where we're providing support, motivation, and affirmation. So a little bit tighter, they're closer in. Empowering is where we're sharing knowledge, skills, and resources so that they can take ownership of their own personal and professional development. And equipping is where we're actually giving tools. They're deeper. We're developing specific competency, skill set, growth opportunities, and they have a whole lot more access than those that may be in the other groups. And so I'm going to minimize that just for a second. And so these are the four circles of impact. If you apply this as you're like, okay, I have like, five people calling me, or if you're out here again and you have a level of influence, or not even that, if you have social media presence, right? What you're sharing out on social media is different than what you're sharing, maybe if you're building some type of group coaching program, is different than what you're sharing if you're doing one-on-one coaching program, is different than what you're sharing if you have a VIP within that. And I liken it to work as well. What you're sharing with your broader team is different than what you're sharing with your supervisors, is different than what you're sharing with your managers, is different than what you're sharing with your direct report. And so this level of impact and and development that you're doing also indicates the level of access that these groups of people have to you. Allow yourself to use this as a great guideline as far as how to structure your relationships. Take a look at your team, see how you might be engaging with your team. Because if you don't have any ones or any threes, then people are missing out on all the goodness that you possess. If you're treating everybody like a multitude or 12, then there's a level of information depth, intimacy that your team or the people around you actually could benefit from, that you're holding on to, that you should probably relinquish. And if, my goodness, you're treating everybody like they're a one or a three, then you're exhausted. You're absolutely exhausted, and you've run out of bandwidth or capacity to actually be able to take in things to continue to grow so that you can continue to sow. And so these are the circles of impact. Again, I've shared the overview here as well as one characteristic from each group. There are three that I like to talk about. I'll definitely talk about the other two at the big brunch, should you choose to stop by.